If you want a workout that's going to decide whether or not you are indeed going to be or are a good CrossFitter, this is the one for you. Every 4 minutes for 4 sets, you got a 30-second assault bike sprint. So you're going to watch me throw my head through the ringer on this. And there's a couple stipulations to it. Number one, you can't be a baby on any single one of them. You are not allowed to pace it. And actually, if you do pace it, that means that you're just kind of showing that you're not going to be a good CrossFitter in the first spot. If you are told to not pace, and then you pace on purpose, it means that you're never going to have the mental fortitude to do what it needs to take in order to be good at this CrossFit stuff. So you'll see on that first round, peak RPM 106. This is really only something that I could have done after the fact, having recorded the monitor like you can see right there. Total calories at 32. That is taken at the exact time in which that thing strikes 30 and remains in the 30-second window. So if it said 31, no rollover. You don't get the rollover. And every single round you want to restart this. Here's how you can tell whether or not you're going to be any good or what you need to get better at. That's probably the more important facet of this. How do I get better using these intervals within the realm of the CrossFit space? You need to be able to power the thing. And this is more important for the women. So if on your first round you are a female and you can't breach 20 calories, your only goal is going to be basically to become more powerful, because if you can't power the bike and you can't get over 20 calories in your first interval, then you're kind of SOL. And for the men, that's going to be 30-ish. So if you can't break 30, breach 30 on the first round in 30 seconds, going all out, then you got a lot of work to do. Everything you're doing is going to be power output based. I think in the interview I did with Physiological recently, she said how when she went over to Matt Torres's facility and started working with the Brute Camp, everything she was doing was power output sort of based. This is my second interval. You can see already that the speed is going down. And the reason that you can start to tell how this is going to go, oh, Andrew, you're going to be a great CrossFitter because you can break 30 calories on your first round. Not so fast, because the best CrossFitters are going to be able to sustain pretty high averages across the entire time. So let's just say that we have somebody like a Dallin Pepper. He might not be the best example because he's a freak and he'll probably be able to break 40, if not get into the 50s on his first assault bike. It's about how much of a gap there is between your first, your second, your third, and your fourth. And then really it's, if you are indeed going all out in every single round, how far did you fall off from your final round to your first round? So if Dallin gets 50 on his first round, can he still feasibly be getting like 25 to 30 on his later rounds, which would still be beating the average everyday mundane me's of the world on this? I mean, if he gets 25 on his fourth round, which he probably could, it shows that he can recover, which is, it's the sport of fitness, which I think should be kind of put up right next to the sport of recovery. So yes, he has the power output. That's crazy. That's nice. So does like the Hoppers of the world. So do the Rickies and the Frasers and all of that. But it's how quickly can they do what they did again? And if the things that they were doing again are putting everyone else in the dust, they're probably going to win the test of fitness when it's all said and done. Because on their worst interval, they're still beating you on what should still somewhat be considered your freshest interval. And I know I mentioned the women. Women's top goal, and I probably put at minimum 400 women through this that I've seen in person, and then another 500 to 600 via the online training program through this sort of a workout. What you're going to see is that probably 80% of the women can't power the bike relatively high enough to put them into the pain hole that you'll see me in right there. So see how I'm like bent over? I'm just trying to keep my arms up. I want to open up my lungs the best that I can. I'm abiding by my rules. I'm not sitting down. I'm trying not to be a baby. But for me, I feel it all in my legs. And that's another thing you want to think about. You want to think about where and how are you being limited. So some people, it's just, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Heart rate was fine for me. I think that it gets down under 100 every single interval, which maybe it'd be better if it just remained higher. Because if it remained higher, maybe it's clearing that crud out of my leg. Everyone's like, oh, it's the lactic acid. The lactic acid's in your legs. It's like, I think acidity in your legs is what you should be looking at. There's a surplus of hydrogen ions from the effort that you're putting into the bike. And look at that. Higher RPMs on the fourth round when compared to the third round, which just shows that I was freaking going at it. It doesn't look like I'm going at it, but in my head, I had nothing left. I'm like trying to like turn and crank and see like where can I get more power? Is there any power left? No, not really. The calories have gone down. The calories have gone from 32 to 22 to 16. But I did go look at my older video, which was on the regular assault bike without the belt on it, and the initial rounds were all higher, but my final round was lower previously. So overall, the score on this one is worse, but the intensity I would have said was higher. And I'm leaving a bunch of this in afterwards because now you can just see that I'm trying to collect myself. I started this workout at about 6:30 in the morning, and it's a 16-minute workout, and I have a client that I have to drive to at 8:20, and I wasn't even recovered at the point in time which I had to go and see my client. My heart rate eventually did climb up, and it never came down. And I think that's something that when you actually truly express like the top level of your exertions, your heart rate will never quite relax, at least for an extended amount of time. And I don't think a lot of people really get that. So this is a test. It is a test. On top of the fact that it is a workout, as you see that I just worked out, and now you're gonna watch me do what I can to, my quads just are not working. They don't work. And that's something that you'll also see oftentimes in people who have used performance-enhancing drugs. Their body can output and they can contract hard enough on workouts like this, but they can't clear. They can contract hard, they can do what they need to for an amount of time, but at a certain point in time, they're gonna seize up and they can't continue to contract. They kind of overreach. And I mean, that's what performance-enhancing drugs do in the first place. They give you abilities that probably you haven't quite yet earned. So yeah, I can power the crap out of the bike having worked out 3 days a week for however long. But at the end of the day, I'm stuck in mud, and it would take a lot more work to be able to clear like the fittest on earth do, which is why I think that this is such a great test of fitness. Look at that. Yep, I believe I was going 42 RPM, and yes, sitting on the bike like this felt exceptionally better than sitting on a box or standing there did. Just moving your legs and using your body as a pump to clear that stuff out will always treat you better in the long run than laying on your back and doing nothing. I'm back into that position where I'm just trying to open up my lungs. Nope, that didn't feel good. It's like I don't know, cut my arms off, cut my legs off. Nothing feels great. So if you are gonna do this, know that via the notes, as I already told you, you have to go 100%. 110%, as they say in the movie Bedazzled. You just gotta go 110% on the bike. And then that 3.5 minutes, it's almost like this time lapse. It's gonna be over before you know it. And then you gotta be back on the bike, reset the monitor, and give 110% again. And at the end of it, if you see that you got, as a woman, let's say you got 25 cals, and then 20 cals, and then 20 cals, and then 20 cals, I'd bet I'll see you at the CrossFit Games pretty soon, or you've already been there. And maybe you're something like 28, 21, 21, 21. And then you might as well be Tia Toomey at that point. Jason Hopper, Dallin Pepper, those sorts of people who can just power the crap out of the bike, you're probably looking at 50 on the first interval, and then a whole bunch of 25s. And what you can see with mine, and I'm in pretty good shape, not the greatest shape, but not going to the CrossFit Games, those 25s are still dusting my best efforts on my second, third, and fourth rounds. And that's what it takes to be the fittest on earth. And that's really all I have to say about that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.